Hi guys, welcome back to Mower Fitness. It is Tech Tuesday and today I have something pretty cool to show you. These are the Engo 2 smart sunglasses. How can sunglasses be smart, you may ask? Well, the special feature of these is that they have a heads-up display, so you can see all your data in your field of vision while you are riding or running. In theory, that's pretty cool, but do they work as well in real life as they do on the advert? These sell for £250 in the UK, which is quite a large chunk of money, so I'm going to let you know if these are worth the investment. Alright, let's jump in. So before we get into it, I do need to say that I paid for these with my own money. I did ask for a discount, which they gave me, which was quite nice, but at the end of the day, I still had to spend my own money on these, so all my views are my own and they had no influence in the review whatsoever. First, let's do an unboxing. Inside you get the usual stuff: paperwork, charging cable, a little bag, and finally the sunglasses themselves. For anyone curious, these weigh in at 41 grams. That's a bit heavier than a standard pair of Oakleys, which weigh in at 33 grams. Right, let's do the initial setup. First thing, you have to connect these to a smartphone app. After that, there's a quick process of adjusting the inside screen to your eyes. It doesn't really take long. All you have to do is press a few buttons and move it up and down until it's within your field of view. You also need to adjust the ear tips to make sure they are fitted correctly. Overall, it doesn't take too long, just a couple of minutes. So because these are smart sunglasses, you need to connect them to a device in order for it to read your data. It works with Apple Watches, Sunto, and Garmin's. I only have Garmin products, so that's what I'm going to be basing this review on. Connecting this to my smartwatch or my bike computer, both use the same process. You've got to download a Connect IQ app and then connect it via that. To be honest, this process took a long time and it was really quite frustrating. It took me a good half an hour to get the whole thing set up. It would be nice if there was an easier way to do it, but I think that's a limitation on Garmin's end and there's probably not much they could do to make it easier. It might be easier to set up on one of the other devices, but I don't have one, so I can't test it. Anyway, once it's finally installed, you need to choose which metrics you want to see. Again, this is a very weird process. Each metric is assigned a number, which you can only find on the Engo website. So you need to look through this list, choose which data you want to display, and then you have to type these numbers into the app. For example, if you wanted heart rate, power, and speed, you'd have to type in 4, 10, and 12 into the Connect IQ app. You also have to do this on a per device basis, which is quite annoying. So the sunglasses themselves don't remember what data to show. That's all on the device end. So I had to set it up twice, once for my Garmin smartwatch and once for my bike computer. Alright, so once the setup is done, it is now time to test it out in the real world. Does it actually work as well as the adverts suggest? So I've been using these for about 2 weeks and I've been running and cycling with them. The first time you put these on is a bit of a shock. It's quite weird seeing data just in your field of view, but once you get used to it, it's actually pretty cool. It's actually quite hard to explain what it's like. If you've ever driven a car with a heads-up display, it's kind of similar to that. Let's do cycling first. I put a camera on my head to try and give you a visual representation of what it looks like. Obviously, it's not exact, but I try my best. So when you're looking ahead, it doesn't look like this, because obviously your eyes can't focus on the data and on what's ahead of you at the same time. So what happens is when you look forward, the data blurs out and you can't really see it at all. It sort of just becomes a tiny blur of light. It's actually pretty impressive how much it disappears. From the adverts, it sort of gives the impression that the data will be quite far ahead of you, such that it will be in focus when you're looking ahead, but the reality is that it seems super close to you instead. When you look at the data, obviously it comes back into focus at the expense of everything else. However, it's not as extreme as you might think. You can still see the rest of the world, it's just a bit blurry. You'd definitely notice a car coming the other way, for example. To be honest, that doesn't really matter because it's the same thing as when you look at a speedo in your car. You never actually look at it for a long time, you simply glance at it for a split second to get the information you want. Overall, in terms of safety, I think these are actually a pretty cool product. Imagine you're going down a descent at like 50 miles an hour and you take a second to look down at your bike computer. Instead of doing that, when you're wearing these, all you need to do is glance your eyes for a split second and you can see all the information you want to know. That split second could be the difference between spotting an obstacle and having the time to avoid it or just crashing, basically. So for cycling, I definitely think these are a pretty cool product in terms of safety. So I used it for a couple of runs and my feelings are mostly the same. While running, you don't hit the dangerous speeds of cycling, so there's definitely not much of an advantage in terms of safety. For running, the real advantage is just not having to turn your head to look down at your watch. To be honest, that is such a small movement that I don't really see a huge benefit while running, but if it's something that bothers you, then it could be worth it. Overall, if you only run, I probably wouldn't recommend these for you. They're very niche, and to be honest, doing the motion of looking at your wrist really isn't that hard. For running, there's only a very slight benefit to these, and to be honest, I don't think it's worth paying that much money just to stop having to do this motion. So far, I've only mentioned the good things about the Engo 2 sunglasses. Let's go into some of the things that could be improved. So the first thing is you're supposed to be able to set up multiple different screens of metrics, and you're supposed to be able to swipe through them by putting them on your head like this and then waving your hand in front of your face to change the screen. But to be honest with you, this just simply doesn't work most of the time. When I was out riding and I tried to change screens by using the swiping motion, it sometimes didn't even work at all. And then most of the times it did work, but it took about 10 seconds to change the screen. So to be honest, I think that feature is just not good enough. I think it would be much better to have a simple button press rather than have a finicky motion sensor, which doesn't really work. To be honest, in the end, I ended up turning off that feature and only stuck to using one screen, which is a bit of a shame. All right, so problem number 2 is that there is occasional dropouts in the data. So you can be wearing this and all the data is coming through fine, but then sometimes it just freezes and it won't update for a while, which is quite annoying, especially when you want to know your speed at that exact moment, for example. Most of the time it does sort itself out within a couple of seconds, but sometimes it just drops out for the entire ride and you need to turn them on and off again to get it to work again. So yeah, it is a bit frustrating that that happens. What's weird is that the data is fine on the Garmin unit, but it just doesn't seem to want to send to the sunglasses itself. So there's definitely a problem there between the Garmin and the sunglasses. So yeah, that's not ideal at all, especially for a product that is £250. I'd say about 95% of the time it works fine, but just those final 5% of time when it drops out, it is really quite frustrating because you do want to have your data available at all times. That is the whole premise of this. And if it doesn't work 100% of the time, then you sort of think, what is the point? Another negative is the comfort of these sunglasses. They are quite heavy right at the front where the lens is, so they do tend to slide down your nose quite a bit. But for me, I was able to fix this just by adjusting the ear tips properly. But if you are a really fussy person when it comes to sunglasses, you might find them a bit annoying. But for me personally, just getting the fit right did solve that problem. All right, to sum up, overall, I would say that these are a pretty hard sell at £250. It is very expensive for what is, at the end of the day, a pair of sunglasses. If you are just a runner, I would definitely not recommend it because doing the watch motion when you're running is easy and not worth spending this much to avoid. However, if you are mainly a cyclist, I think these have more of a place. If you spend a lot of time bombing down descents, then these could definitely be a game changer. It might seem like only a small difference between looking down at your bike computer and just shifting the focus in your eyes, but being able to keep your eyes on the road really does make quite a big difference. When I'm going down fast descents, of which there are not many here in the UK, I do quite like not having to look down because I just feel a lot safer having the data in my eye line. So safety-wise on the bike, I think these are pretty good. Engo do offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can always try these out, and if you like them, keep them. If not, you can just send them back, which is quite fair. I do think these are a pretty cool piece of tech. I would like to see them get the connection between the Garmin and the sunglasses more solid because those dropouts are very annoying. For now, I probably wouldn't recommend these for most people. Maybe wait a generation or two for the Engo 3s or Engo 4s and hopefully they will get rid of all those small little niggles. Although if you do like having the latest and greatest, this is definitely a cool piece of tech and it will probably impress most people on the group ride. So yeah, that pretty much sums it up, to be honest. All right, that's it from me. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up button and be sure to subscribe. I will be back next week with more tech reviews if that is your jam. All right, see you next week.